Hello my dear friends and welcome to my channel. Don't forget to make yourself a cup of tea or coffee if you want, because today we have very interesting stories, and one of them is a story about a woman whose child behaved badly, and when she was told about it, she did this. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I hope you'll enjoy it. Characters. EM. Come on, y'all already know. CM. Coach Milton, not real name. CC. Coach Christian, also not real name. P1. Police Officer 1. P2. Police Officer 2. So for a bit of background, I've been playing lacrosse since 3rd grade, and when this happened, I was in 9th grade. The way that lacrosse practices work is that there is a 4th grade and under team, a 5 to 6th grade team, a 7 to 8th grade team, and then a JV varsity team. Each team practices separately. 2 teams practice in one day. On this specific day, it was the 7 to 8 team and the JV varsity team practicing. We each had our own field, but they are right next to each other. I was on the JV varsity field practicing when this happened and didn't catch the first part of this story. I was later filled in by my dad. So basically, our head coach, CM, had just retired from coaching, but his son still played, so he was at the practices. CM was loved by most of the players and many of the parents for creating such special bonds with them. However, when he coached the JV varsity games, he was known to get expressive on how he felt when a player screwed up. Although I admit he sometimes took it a little far, he never got too out of hand, and at the end of the day, he was still a great coach and helped the player fix his mistake. To the parents though, this was not okay to some of them as they didn't know the whole story most of the time. They would just see the coach chewing out their precious baby. When CM retired, it made these misunderstanding parents relieved, I guess. They thought that was the end of CM, but thank the Lord Almighty that it wasn't, because he was great. CM often helped out when the coaching staff was low on hands. On this particular day, that is exactly what happened. The 7 to 8 grade coach, CC, was down an assistant coach one day. No biggie. CM was there that day since his son was on the other field with the JV varsity team. So CC asked CM if he could help coach today. Of course, CM had nothing better to do, so he agreed. Everything was going well until EM looked up from her phone to see CM teaching her son how to better perfect his shot. She stood up and marched onto the field to confront CM. Keep in mind, practice was happening and she messed up several drills by getting in the way. "Ma'am, could you please step off the..." She cut him off. "What the hell are you doing coaching again? I'm sorry. You were fired and you need to leave now." "Ma'am, CC needed an extra set of hands today, so I'm helping him out. And I wasn't fired, I retire. If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police." "Ma'am, please, you are disrupting our practice and causing a scene. I'd be happy to talk to you privately, but you'll have to wait until practice is over." "No, you will leave now. I will stand here until you go." "What should I do?" "I don't know, let's give the kids a water break so that we can talk to EM." So they send the kids to go get water and have a discussion with EM. There is lots of yelling from EM, but at this point, my dad had tried not to pay attention. EM stormed off and went to her car. When she came back out, she supposedly had a smug look on her face like she had just gotten some McDonald's employee fired. After about 15 minutes, I saw police lights pull into the parking lot and 2 officers get out. EM got up and ran to them. I had to keep practicing, so this is from my dad's perspective again. Apparently when M ran to the officers, she started pleading with them that CM had been torturing her son. P1 walked over to get CM's side of the story, while P2 stayed and talked to EM. I don't know what she was expecting, because CM had many witnesses and a solid story, while all EM had was some made-up story that didn't make sense. I didn't take long before the officers had EM in cuffs. It turns out that she was wanted for other harassment charges herself. She was arrested for misuse of emergency services and disrupting the peace. The thing that blows my mind the most is the fact that CM was only hard on the JV varsity players when he coached. I would know because I was on every lower team with him as a head coach. So this means that EM only got her credit on CM being bad from a freaking rumor. She had almost no experience with him herself. To me, that's just crazy. I wonder when entitled parents will learn not to call cops on other people, because they will get in trouble in the end for giving a false report. So this is a pretty recent story in July this year. Virus restrictions had begun opening up in my country, so my friend, next door neighbor, and I decided to take a ride on our bikes. We were both wearing masks keeping the 1.5 distance. We stuck clean of the main roads through the back roads we rode for about 2 hours, not going blistering fast, but at a good pace, when we decided to start going back home for lunch of course. So we are just pulling up in our neighborhood. When this truck passes us. I don't remember the make though. The windows are all down. The entitled kid in this story, shouts from the truck. "Daddy, I want those bikes." Now we're both social outcasts, so we knew this would be a problem. Plus you would imagine a normal parent won't stop for something but tell their kid, "Maybe later pal." But no, this guy stopped right there. "Put those 2 bikes in the back, he'll give you, for the sake of easy reference he'll use dollars, as it's the easiest to convert to my currency, $2 for them." Now our bikes are $500 mountain bikes are expensive and all, but they are still worth more than $2. Did you not hear what I said? I don't have time to wait here. Me, in a shaking voice. "Sir, we are not selling our bikes. You know, back in my day if an elder told you something you would do without complaint. And if you don't you would be whopped properly. Now here we are, 2 socially awkward teens standing by our bikes while some random guy is yelling at us. Luckily a neighbor who was mowing his lawn nearby saw and came over. "Hey pal, everything good here? Daddy, I want the bikes now." Starting to throw a fit. "These kids are disrespecting me. How? They won't sell me their bikes." GN and ED have a conversation, and with a look of frustration Ed started up his truck and left with his kid crying and screaming. GN then proceeded to escort us back home as we stammer our thanks. Since that day I have kept my bike in the garage as the Ed might come and try and steal them. Funny, had I acted like that around my dad, "Daddy, I want the bikes." His response would have been, "Yeah, well, I want $1 million. Good luck with that." And continued driving to wherever. I was talking to an old friend I haven't heard from in ages, and they brought up this story, so I thought I'd share it. I used to work at Dillard's in the children's department, so I saw my fair share of entitled behavior from our customers, but this incident happened to my coworker. A customer was browsing around with her 4 or 5-year-old son. He was running around, knocking things off racks, etc. The mother made no effort to control him until he crashed into her a couple of times. She told him to go sit in one of the chairs by the dressing rooms. The chairs were pretty nice and upholstered in a silk-like fabric. My coworker was removing garments left in the changing rooms, and as she passed by the little boy, she noticed he was pushing a small car, think matchbox-style car, all over the back of the chair, and it was shredding the fabric. She spoke to the boy and asked him not to do that. He responded by blowing a raspberry at her and pushed the car with even more force. She went to the mother and said, "Your son is destroying the chair with his little car, could you speak to him?" Which is way nicer than I would have put it. The mother stopped and stared at my coworker. They stood there just looking at each other, for my coworker described as too long and very awkward. Finally, the mother asked, "So?" My coworker started saying, "Well, could you?" And before she could finish the sentence, the mother slapped her across the face with the hanger she was holding. So hard it broke a hanger. Now, I would have beat the crap out of that woman right then and there, job be damned. My coworker just turned around and went to find our manager. She first encountered an off-duty police officer who works security in the store and is a close friend of mine, and told him what happened. He went with her to the manager. The manager went over to the mother, listened to her rant, apologized to her for the misunderstanding, and gave her a 10% discount for her troubles. My coworker was so stunned she couldn't even speak. Even the cop was saying, "What the hell just happened?" The cop turned to my coworker and asked if she wanted to press charges. Before she could answer, the manager interrupted, saying that wouldn't be necessary. Meantime, all the other employees in the department are watching all this go down, and I had just walked back in from my break. I see my coworker has a huge welt across her face and is bleeding under her eye. My coworker told the cop she did in fact want to press charges. The manager told her she couldn't do that if she wanted to keep her job. She told him that was fine, she quit. The manager was still insistent that the mother not be troubled by all this. The cop said she could have put her eye out and I am arresting her. If you don't like it, you can't take it up with my commander. The entitled mother was still acting smug until she saw the cuffs. Then she started screaming the usual nonsense, "I'm gonna sue all of you, I'll have your badge, do you know who I am," etc. No one but the manager cared and she still went to jail. All of the other employees and customers who were watching clapped as she was being let out of the store in cuffs. The manager started in on the employees about how to correctly deal with situations like what had happened. We all looked at each other and without saying a word, we all clocked out and left. All of us. Good luck running the entire department by yourself. We hung around our injured coworker until she was done with the police report and then took her to lunch. She said she'd been planning to apply at a different store in the same mall anyway, but hadn't planned on quitting the way it happened and worried that Dillard's would give her bad reference now. We convinced her to go to the other right then, injured face and all. She explained what happened to the manager there. She was hired on the spot and told her they don't put up with crap like that. If a customer hits you, no matter who they think they are, charges will be filed and will be permanently banned from the store. I spoke to my cop friend a few days later and he said the crazy woman nearly drove him insane with her screaming and threats on the way to the jail, which wasn't close. After she saw that wasn't working, she started with pleading and bribery. He said he didn't think he'd ever been so glad to hand someone off to booking. All this happened ages ago, and since that day, I've never stepped foot in a Dillard's. Screw them. I do applaud all the workers walking out on the manager. The customer is not always right and employees aren't to be treated like jerks. Glad this woman is in jail now. It's actually about my entitled mother-in-law. My fiancé and I got engaged 2 years ago. For context, we are both master's graduates working in the business world and are more than competent to plan complex events such as weddings. We didn't need a wedding planner for this reason, and I already had a list of vendors, venue, etc. that worked with our date and budget. Hugh in the middle and she immediately wants to be involved with the planning. Okay, fine. She has been very nice to me and treats me like one of her own, which actually is part of the problem, and never had the wedding she wanted because her own mom was controlling. So I lost and gave up on some of the battles and allowed her to change the date from something important to us to a random one so her sister can come. Her sister wouldn't come on our origins meaningful date because her son, my fiance's cousin, has a 51st birthday on that day. I would have been more than happy to celebrate his birthday at our wedding, but it was a no-go. So fine, we changed the date and I spend my time coordinating with all our vendors. Then she starts making more demands. I must add his sister to my bridal party because it's tradition. We're friendly but not close. She doesn't usually show at events she says yes to, and my other bridesmaids are my best friends I've known closely for well over a decade, so it was very uncomfortable. She didn't make it a question, and I was too shocked to respond at the time, like I was literally speechless. Then she complains about my dress, telling me I should get the first one I showed her, even though it was only one size in 00 and cannot be altered to my body, plus I like the second one better. She hated that our reception was a 10-minute drive away. Her friends wanted it at the same location as the ceremony, even though we planned for prepaid parking and taxis. She changed our original menu to something I didn't care for. I am to blame here since I didn't want to be a complainer. I fought for every one of my decisions and was so tired, so let her do it, since she did offer to pay. Because of COVID, she gave us an ultimatum to move our ceremony and reception to next year, or still do the full reception this year. We can't due to restrictions, but she didn't care. If it was an enjoyable wedding planning process, where I got a say for my own wedding, I would have moved it for a better experience after COVID. But I dreaded it so much I literally broke down when my fiancé asked to push it out, since I couldn't imagine going another year of being treated like a baby with no capabilities or thoughts of my own. My fiancé did finally back me up and told his family we are already married, but I can't move the date out either since it's another lie I don't want to take part in. We have to lie about a lot of big decisions to his family. I get her other adult children, mid to late 30s, heavily depend on her financially and emotionally, but my parents raised me to be independent at a young age and trust that they raised me well to make good decisions. So I'm just overwhelmed. Ruined wedding, but I'm planning our honeymoon, so that's the only thing I'm excited for, since it will be for us. Wow, so her own mom ruined her wedding, so she is passing down the tradition. Well, understandable. Worst thing is I can see why you kept quiet and didn't want to rock the boat, but in the future probably best to shut her down before she gets involved in things. A little backstory. Last December our province was hit by a strong typhoon that destroyed several houses and infrastructures, including my previous apartment, some part of the roof. So as I was cleaning the fallen leaves and other fallen debris outside, I have found this small puppy 2 or 3 weeks old I think, shivering and very hungry. I took her inside my apartment and gave her a warm bath and fed her. Due to the typhoon, our local veterinary clinic was closed, so I took it upon myself to take good care of her so she can regain her strength. I decided that I would adopt her and named her Luna. Vet says she's a pit bull mix. Luna and I moved to another apartment 2 weeks ago, and we have a pregnant lady downstairs, let's call her Sally. Last Saturday I was jogging with Luna when Sally and her husband approached me and asked me if I could watch their house for a few days because they are going to their parents' house. I said sure, no problem. Now Luna is being fussy because she wanted to go to the beach, that's where we are headed. Sally asked what's your dog's name? I said Luna. Her face changed from being friendly to an angry witch. The hell, you are not supposed to give your dog a human name, change her name, she said screaming. I said it doesn't matter because she's mine and she has no right to impose anything on me. She said pointing to her tummy, my daughter will be named Luna, I don't want her to have the same name with a dog. At this point there are people looking at us and Luna is now barking at them. She barks at people when she thinks they are danger. Change that dog's name or I'll kill her. At this point I yell at her that if anything happened to Luna, I'll sue her, and there are plenty of witnesses that can prove she was threatening to kill my dog. She ran and her dumb idiot husband, who didn't do anything in this situation, followed her. I don't know what will happen next, but I will not change Luna's name, they don't own it. And Luna is not just a dog. She's family and a very adorable companion. To those who will say that pit bulls are dangerous dogs, well sorry, you're wrong, they are very kind and lovely dogs. What a horrible lady. I would have snapped back with change her baby's name then if she doesn't want her sharing a name with my dog. And why the hell her hubby was so quiet. Well guys, that's it for today. If you end up enjoying this video, please consider subscribing, and if you missed the last episode on the channel, I'm gonna link it right here. The story is about a woman who demanded Op give her child a game and then calls the police. Check this out if you haven't, and I'll see you in my next video.